The number line we used to help us find the answer to integer problems. The number line is an awesome visual. So usually on a number line, you can start with 0 in the center, and on the right side are all the positives. So positive 1, 2, 3, 4. And on the left side of 0 is where all the negatives are. -1, -2, -3, -4, and so on. The number line can be made into a 3D number line by adding an additional number line that goes up and down. As you go to the top side of this number line, you go up 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the lower side of this vertical number line is where the negatives exist. -1, -2, -3, -4. When you have two number lines stacked like this, you are looking at what is called a coordinate plane. The coordinate plane. The coordinate plane is basically a 3D number line. The number line we're used to is horizontal, going side to side. This side-to-side number line is called the x-axis. The number line going up and down is called the y-axis. The point in the very center of the number line, this is where you always begin. This very center point is called the origin. Now you can graph points anywhere you want along the coordinate plane. Every point that you graph consists of two coordinates, the x and the y coordinate. This right here is called a coordinate point, and you will also hear this called an ordered pair. So let's say I'm plotting a point right here on my graph. Let's call this point A. Now, if I were to describe where A is located, I best describe that point with an ordered pair. The first number in the ordered pair is always the x coordinate. So you look along your x-axis to see where A is located. Well, if I kind of go up here, A is located at +2 on my x-axis. The second number in your ordered pair or coordinate point comes from where your point is located along the y-axis. So now looking at this up and down axis, it looks like A is located at -2. These coordinates together describe perfectly where A is located at on the coordinate plane. You would go over to the right 2 spaces on the x-axis and then travel downward 2 spaces on the y-axis to get A. Now let's just say you've been given a coordinate plane and you're asked to plot the point C, which is located at 3, -4. So remember, the first number in your ordered pair always tells you where to move on your x-axis. I need to move over 3 on my x-axis. This is my x. And down 4, since it's negative, on my y-axis. So you always begin at the origin in the center. Now I'm going to go over 1, 2, 3 spaces on my x-axis, then travel downward 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces on my y-axis. This would be the proper location for C. Okay, let's say you're asked to graph point D, which is located at -2, 0. So again, the first number tells me where to travel, left or right, on my x-axis. Since the 2 is negative, starting at the origin, I need to travel 2 spaces left, 1, 2. The second number, the 0, tells me where to go on my y-axis. Now it is a 0, which means I don't need to move any spaces up or down. I move 0 and plot my point D. Okay, so points can lie in this region of the coordinate plane, this region, or this region. Points can even lie on top of the axes, like D here. D is lying on top of the x-axis. Okay, whenever you're given a coordinate pair, an ordered pair, with 2 positive numbers in it, you'll be in this region of the coordinate plane. Whenever you're given a negative followed by a positive number, you'll be in this upper section, upper left section of the coordinate plane. If you're given 2 negative numbers, you'll be in this lower left section, and if you're given a positive followed by a negative, you'll be in this lower right section. Okay, so always begin at the origin, then move left or right, depending on if you're given a positive x value or a negative x value. And then from there you can move up or down, again depending if you're given a positive or negative y value. Here's an example problem. Plot the following 3 points on the coordinate plane. -1, 1, 0, -2, 1, -5. Okay, let's start with the first one. -1, +1. Remember, the first number is how far you move on your x-axis, and the second number tells you how far up or down to move on your y-axis. So starting at the origin or in the center, I need to move left 1 space because of the -1, and then up 1 space because of this +1, and I get my first point located there. To plot the second coordinate, start at the origin. Now my x value is a 0, which means I don't move left or right. I stay centered. My y value is a -2, which tells me to move downward 2 spaces on the y-axis. That would be the location of my second ordered pair. The last point to graph is +1, -5. So here you would go to the right 1 space, then the -5 would tell you to go downward from there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces. Now I have properly placed these 3 points. Okay, let's say I graph a couple more points on here. I'm going to graph one point here and call it A. I'll graph this point here, call it B. This point here, call it C. And up here will be D. Okay, so now I would like you to list the coordinates of A, B, C, and D. Okay, let's start with A. A is located in the very center of my graph, at the origin. I didn't move left or right on my x-axis, I stayed centered, and I didn't move up or down on my y-axis, I stayed centered. So the coordinates of point A would be 0, 0. I stayed on the origin. Now let's find the coordinates of B. Starting at the origin, it looks like I moved over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 positive spaces. So my x coordinate is going to be a 5. Then from there, I moved up 1 positive space on the y-axis. So my y coordinate would be a 1. Okay, point C is located here. Starting at the origin, to get to C, I move 1, 2 spaces in the negative direction. So my x coordinate would be a -2. And from there, I go downward 1, 2 spaces. So my y coordinate would also be a -2. Lastly, point D. Starting at the origin, it looks like I do not move left or right on my x-axis. So my x coordinate is a 0. But I do move up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces. So my y value would be a 5. And that is how the coordinate plane works.